I mean, Boris Johnson, we were speaking about earlier, we spoke to his father, who was very concerned about the environment and the EU. But it says Boris Johnson is now expected to campaign, this is exclusive in the Times from Stephen Swinford, in red wall seats in the run-up to general election after a thawing in relations between he and Rishi Sunak. He wants to be deployed in marginal seats and put on as the local kind of, cheerleader to get the Tory vote out in the red wall. I'm not sure how he's going to do that.
Geez, they're doing
not an easy task, is it?
No, and I wonder though why he's doing it. Is it, is he plotting a possible return?
I think the problem with a lot of these guys is they can't stay away, can they? I mean, it's an election. Boris Johnson wins elections, he likes them.
Yeah, he likes them, and it's what he's good at.
Yeah.
It's what he's good at. So he'll be back in his comfort zone, being back in the spotlight in the red wall areas.
But I'm not sure people will buy it this time around, because in 2019, when he said we're going to get Brexit done, people went, OK, and he didn't get it done, really,
Yeah. And a lot of people are still very angry about Partygate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure many of us around this table felt that the bigger iniquity was lockdown itself and what that did to our society. But actually, I think most people in Britain think that lockdown was the right thing to do and are still very angry about the hypocrisy of Boris Johnson and his...
And also a lot of people have relatives who died who felt that they were not looked after properly for all sorts of reasons in different ways.
But there's no denying that Boris Johnson does have that certain charisma and ability to draw people in. And, that there aren't many politicians where wherever they go, people want to take pictures with them, for example. I don't know if this is true anymore, but people would often say, oh, I'd love to have a drink with Boris. He amuses
Well, even
people.
politicians want their pictures taken.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a massive draw whenever he turns up anywhere.
It'll be interesting to see how much of that remains after, his 3 years of governance where, not exclude all his fault. I mean, who could have predicted COVID and the nightmare of governing through COVID? But, things certainly didn't go to plan.
No.
And what will he talk about as well? Because he's always been traditionally very liberal on things like immigration.
Well, this is it. And net zero as well.
Yes. So is he going to pragmatically shift? Can he do that?
Well, I think the problem for Boris this time around would be if he does turn up in the red wall, they'll say, well, hang on, you promised to make the borders more secure. You promised to get immigration down, I think, to 20,000 a year. That's what he said in 2019.
Wow.
And that
God, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, I'm afraid
20,000.
Yeah, I mean, they were going to get net migration down, and instead it's 750.
We get, that's like,
That's about 6 months on the boats.
Yeah, I was going to say less than half of channel crossings,
It's ridiculous. And so he can't stand on his record. He can't say, well, the reason we couldn't do any of it was because of COVID, because that's not true. Because the one thing that you could do when nobody else could travel was you could get on a dinghy in France and come to Britain during the toughest of lockdowns when nobody could go anywhere. And they were still arriving and being taken to hospitals with masks on. I mean, absolutely ludicrous,
But I think it's interesting that relations between him and the Prime Minister have apparently thawed, because that's very... I mean, that was... Rishi Sunak, he plucked from relative obscurity and made Chancellor.
Yeah.
And although they did actually clash a fair bit over lockdown, for Rishi Sunak to have played such a decisive role in defenestrating him. But I guess, politics is full of shifting alliances. And Boris Johnson is one of those
Well, we've seen that
people
today with Lee Anderson and Richard Tyson.
Boris Johnson doesn't actually have many close allies at all. I think he's quite suspicious of many, many people in politics. So it would follow that he might also be more likely to sort of forge a maybe temporary truce with someone.
Exactly.